Welcome back. I'm Michael Dresser. You are listening to The Michael Dresser Show. Stuart Young with us. He is the author of How to Change Your Life One Day at a Time, practical guides to help you experience more clarity, fulfillment, and that word called happiness. After experiencing his own I'm going to use a word here, the catalyst for change. 9 years ago, Stuart Young's life changed rapidly and radically, and within just a few short months, he started his own business and set himself up on the path to financial freedom. The catalyst was one question followed by a four-word answer embedded within a 15-minute mental exercise, and from that moment on, he gained a new perspective, which set him free. Stuart, hi. Welcome to the show.
Hi there. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good, and thank you so much for being here. You know, you were going through whatever it was you were going through, but the catalyst, that's something that changed you. What was how did you get it? Where did it come from?
Well, briefly, I was probably in a place where so many people are right now, and I was in a job that I really didn't like. I felt like I had no prospects to move on to anything else because I was managing a place and I was working all the hours God sent, and I just didn't see a way out of it. And that's where my mindset was at that time. And people kept telling me, you've got to get out of this, Stu. You've got to change. You've got to do something. And then I just happened across a hypnotherapist one day. It was an open day, and he invited me to sit down and talk with him for a few minutes. And the one question that he asked me was, what's the one thing you'd like to change about yourself today?
Yeah.
And it just went straight into my subconscious because it was completely out of the blue. And I immediately answered, make better decisions faster. And I thought, wow, where did that come from? I kind of thought, at the time, I kind of thought, I just made it up. I thought, I better say something, and I just said it. But looking back on it, it was exactly the right thing to say. My subconscious was screaming that. And, we went through this little process, this little question and answer process, which didn't last very long, maybe 15 minutes. And I kind of shook his hand, thank you very much, and I walked home. It was about a 5-minute walk to my home.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to my house, I felt like I was levitating. I was absolutely euphoric. This realization, all of a sudden, about this is what's stopping me. I don't make decisions quickly. And I just ponder and ponder and ponder, and I procrastinate. And that little tweak that guy did for me back then just opened a huge door for me. And I stepped through, and literally within 3 months, my entire life was completely different.
Stuart, let me ask you this: was the reason for the procrastination was the fear of judgment of others?
Partly the judgment of others, if you were going to say, oh, Stu, you've done the wrong thing, or I was looking after my daughter at the time as well, sure. And I wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing for her, I didn't want to put myself at risk. But I realized in that moment that actually I had all of the opportunities in front of me, I just wasn't seeing them, or if I was seeing them, I just wasn't grasping them. And that moment of clarity that I got from doing that little exercise just pushed me over the edge into, I've just got to make decisions, and I've got to be prepared to fail. This is the important bit. I've got to make sure that I'm not so wrapped up in my security that I do nothing. And that's what I had been doing for many years beforehand.
So in essence, when you really come down to it, it's uncovering what we would call the blind spot, what was missing that you didn't see. So what he did is he triggered you to bring the invisible to the table, didn't he?
Absolutely, yes, totally. And the strange thing was, other people had already been telling me this in a kind of roundabout way. They were saying, start your own business, you should go out and do this on your own, or get a different job, you can do better somewhere else, and all sorts of things. But I didn't actually piece those bits together until that moment when he asked me that penetrating question, and my subconscious just, threw the answer out. It was obviously in the back of my head, screaming and shouting for months, maybe years. And it got an opportunity to talk, and it spoke loudly.
No, because when you really come down to it, with some of the hobbies that you have, the piano, guitar, drums, you're an abstract artist, and that first-degree black belt in the jiu-jitsu. But all of that is the same thing, isn't it? You don't have to worry about making decisions. You flow. You express yourself. It's you.
It is. And the funny thing, all of those other hobbies that I enjoy now came from that moment.
Yeah.
So I had a piano sitting in my house for years. I hadn't touched it. I didn't touch a key on it. I didn't know how to play. I didn't know where to start. And I had been painting pictures for many, many years up to that point, and my sister and some other friends and family were the beneficiaries of those pictures because I never sold any. I never put myself out there to try and sell anything. And from that moment, my decision-making process just started kicking in. I'm going to start learning this piano. I'm going to start finding a way to sell these paintings. I'm going to, instead of just sitting back and being a martial artist, not grading, I was just a white belt for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. I'm going to push myself forward. I'm going to get better. I'm going to do these gradings. And just within a short space of time, I was learning the piano, I was learning the drums, I was learning the guitar. I had started selling my paintings. Within a couple of years, I'd become a black belt. And it just, everything, this is how everything changed about my life.
It was all about who you were. Now, one of the things I know that you address, which is extremely important, how does forgiveness play a part in what it is that stops us, that holds us back from being who we are and doing the things that we would love to do?
Well, here's the two. I've got a two-step process to forgiveness. And if you're struggling with it in any way, it might be you're struggling with forgiving somebody else, or it might be that you're struggling with forgiving yourself. And that certainly was the case with me. You know, I had all these issues about myself not moving forward, and I had to get past that. So here's my two questions for anybody out there that's suffering with the not able to forgive. And that is, ask yourself these two questions. Number one, what is my main benefit by not forgiving? What do you get by not forgiving? So you might be able to hold on to blame. You might be able to hold on to anger. And all of these things seem a bit negative, but actually they benefit you in some way if you look at it deeply. So what is my main benefit by not forgiving? And then ask yourself, what's my main benefit by forgiving? So if I forgive that person, or if I forgive myself for that thing, what's my benefit from that? And when you can do that, and you need a bit of time, you need a bit of quiet time, and you actually go through it and you do it kind of honestly with yourself, you will always, always, always come up with, number two, my benefits for actually forgiving far outweigh any benefit I get from not forgiving. And then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and what it is, it's a transition of value. And I really believe when you do something like that, what you do is you redefine your identity the way you get accepted. You know, if I'm going to be angry all the time, then people know I'm going to be angry, and anger is what causes me to get people to pay attention to me. And I really believe when you start asking those questions, there is a benefit in anger, a benefit in depression, a benefit in being frustrated. This list goes on here, because if you can't get attention somehow, you're going to find a way to do it, and it may not be the best, but it's still a way to be identified.
So anger, people might be using anger. They're holding on to anger because it allows them to blame somebody else for something. But if that anger went, they wouldn't be able to blame that person. So they use that anger in order to blame someone else. Therefore, they don't take responsibility themselves. And the responsibility is for forgiving, because you know what? You set yourself free when you do it.
Sure, and it's also, and I know you deal with habits, but the blaming is also a habit. You blame somebody for everything, then you don't have to look like you're responsible for anything you do. You blame your parents for this. You blame your occupation, the people you work with for that, and your spouse for this, and it goes on and on. We have been taught to do that. It is a culture thing, and it doesn't have to be that way, because habits in and of themselves, they're all learned.
Totally. Whenever I get a new student enrolled, I try and take them through what I call the 3 times QS. And the QS stands for quit moaning, start being grateful, quit blaming, start taking responsibility, and quit making excuses and start making plans. When you make plans, you move yourself forward, you empower yourself. So blaming is right there, right at the beginning of the process. If you want to change in any way, stopping blaming is right at the beginning.
Sure, and when you're dealing with a habit is, and again, a habit's learned, and I really believe in my heart of hearts, If you've learned something, you can unlearn it and you can relearn it, and it doesn't take that long to do. A habit is repetition of action. You keep doing it over again, it becomes a habit and you can change it, but you have to become aware that you're doing that. And I think there's a big problem, Stuart, with so many people. They're not aware of what they're doing. It just seems to be, part of the daily chore.
Yeah, what a great word that is, the awareness. We've all got to develop awareness of why we're doing things, how we're doing things, because if we don't look at that, we can't actually stop doing those things. And habits is a massive, massive thing in my life. If ever I want to achieve something, I set positive habits around it.
Sure.
And if I want to stop a bad habit, I replace it with a good habit. But here's one important thing about that. If you replace a bad habit with a good habit, make sure the good habit continues to give you the benefit that the bad habit gave you.
Yeah, by the way, let me give you a prime example of how unaware that we are. Are you sitting by a desk?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, touch the desk. Touch it?
I'm touching it.
Okay, now, the moment you touched it, the desk came into existence. Before you touched that desk, it wasn't even there, was it?
Yeah, you got no evidence of it being there.
I mean, physically it's there, but you weren't aware of it. You weren't concentrating. It didn't even exist, did it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's just... Yeah, it's the same thing with what you're dealing with. If you got all these problems and you're not, I'm going to use the word again, if you're not aware that this is going on, that's the way life is, and you don't even get it. It's the same thing as the desk. The desk did not come into existence for you until you touched it. You became aware of it.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Awareness is everything.
Yeah. Really, when we really come down to it. Now, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and I want to. One thing I think is extremely important that you do address: turning obstacles into opportunities. That is so important.
Absolutely. So when I started out, let's go back. Before I had that meeting, I had 101 obstacles in my path. I can't do this thing because I can't do that because. And every obstacle became a barrier to me moving forward. But now I understand how the whole process works. I look for my obstacles. I look for them. I list them. I address them. And when I identify what my obstacle is, I realize what I need to actually get around. I now know what I need to work on. So, for instance, when I started my business, my obstacle was I don't know how to start a business. I've never started a business before. Okay. Now I know that the first thing I need to do is figure out how I actually physically start a business, get an accountant, find a company name, etc., etc. So when you identify what your obstacles are, use them as a lever to actually figure out what your opportunities are.
And realistically, I think that when you really come down to it, we're going to have a tremendous challenge. But I think the challenge is, and we put them in front of ourselves purposely. We have 1 or 2 things that can happen when a challenge comes up. You don't recognize it, you go on and you hide in the corner and you say, I can't do it because, or you recognize the challenge and you recognize this is an obstacle that you have to get over so you can go on and accomplish what you want. And I truly believe that. Every obstacle, every pain in life is an opportunity. It doesn't mean that it feels good while you're going through it. But if you look at it, and if you look at it through different sets of eyes, all of a sudden those challenges could be the best thing in your life.
Totally. And most of the things that we want to change about our lives are painful to look at. And this is why most people don't look at them. They are painful. It's difficult. In order to move forward, you must put some effort in.
Yeah.
And a lot of people they probably get so wrapped up in the amount of effort they're spending already at work and at their homes and everything else, all this struggle, they think, well, I don't want to add another struggle on top of that. But what they don't realize is that is the important struggle. When you change yourself, everything else becomes easier.
Oh, no question. By the way, where can we get the book at?
You can get it, probably the easiest place is Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's on Kindle and the Nook. So you can just order it there and it will just come automatically to you. There is a 90-day home study program that I created to complement the book, which is available for free for anyone that wants to get the book for a limited time. And if you just get the book and then email me, I think on your website you've got my contact details there. They just email me and mention that they've got the book from wherever they've got it from, and I'll enroll them or give them the link so they can go and enroll on that program if they so wish.
By the way, the program in and of itself, do you use video Skype? Do you get people all over the world involved in what you're doing?
The program gets delivered automatically via email, so people can do it at their own pace. It really is something to go along with the book. It takes 3 months to do it, but they don't have to do it within 3 months. I just think that that's the best timescale to do it over. And it literally, you just you enroll, and once you're enrolled, it just comes to your email box a couple of times a week. There'll be some exercises to do, there'll be some articles to read, and it just gets your mindset changing so that when you read the book, you're much more open to doing the guide. You're much more open to exploring what it's saying.
You should still do a once-a-month Q&A on video Skype.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm working on. I'm right at the early days, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's for that personal touch and to answer people's questions, it's definitely something I need to do.
Now, let me ask you this, because we're just about to close out. Website, again, slowly, that we can find you, the book, and the program.
So the website would be howtochangeyourlifeoneday@a-time.com. It's exactly the same as the book, and that will take you to a free video training series, and on there it will give you all the links to go through and find how to buy the book and how to get onto the program, etc., etc.
Okay, by the way, did you get married yet?
That's not happening until later on this year. We're still planning that, and that's going to happen, I think, October. So,
wonderful. Okay, yeah, the best of all to you, and say hello to the 2 dogs and the cat, and we're happy.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Hey, by the way, thank you so much for joining us.
I've really enjoyed it, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.